Hello and welcome to Perspectives on the Voice of America. I'm Dimyake Mwakaliele. In 1971, the U.S. Congress ratified the 26th Amendment to the Constitution, which standardized the national voting age to 18. Political observers have long been concerned by low turnout among young voters. In recent years, the entertainment industry has become increasingly involved in trying to engage its young audiences in the political process. Organizations like MTV's Rock the Vote and Def Jam founder Russell Simmons' Hip Hop Summit Action Network have channeled the popularity of famous musicians and actors to encourage young people to go to the polls on Election Day. Now, another group is stepping up to motivate America's youth. The Hip Hop Caucus was established in September 2004 by activists and organizers who are working to get out the vote. The group recently had a concert in Washington, D.C. to spread the message about the importance of making a mark on Election Day. VOA's Robert Raphael has that story.
For several of these hip-hop performers, that message means one thing: register to vote. Hundreds of fans crammed inside Nightclub 930 in Washington, D.C. Monday to get close to some of their favorite stars. Various artists gathered as part of an event staged by the Hip Hop Caucus, a nonprofit organization aimed at encouraging young Americans to register to vote. The group says that in the 2004 U.S. presidential election, only 34% of Americans aged 18 to 29 who did not attend college voted. Hip-hop star T.I. gave a direct message to his audience.
And in this country we living in right now, the game is played by voting. You change things by voting.
Professional basketball player Atan Thomas says he sees a shift in attitude among many young people.
There's a new movement going on right now where young people are now excited about voting. They're excited about politics. They're watching CNN and watching Fox News and seeing different things that they disagree with and agree with, and it's beautiful.
Many of those in the audience say they want to ensure that their voices are heard within the American political process.
I think it's very important for celebrities to come out, people that kids sort of look up to and can sort of see, okay, it's cool to vote, so now I actually know that when I become of age, I'm going to vote.
The country is in something of a decline in some senses, and I think a lot of people are now finding themselves blaming the government. And I think that in some ways that might be good. I mean, when you have a government, that has people more afraid of it than it is of the people, it's dangerous.
Being of African American descent, my grandmother couldn't vote, and my mother couldn't vote until she was old enough, of age. She was old enough after 1964, but I still think it's important that we all exercise our right to vote, but in particularly African Americans, because there was a time where I couldn't.
My parents are Middle Eastern, so I definitely have an interest in the foreign affairs and the policy towards our war in Iraq and a possible war in Iran.
The Hip Hop Vote 2008 campaign targets young residents in urban communities and on college campuses in 12 states and Washington, D.C. Robert Raphael, VOA News.
Joining me to discuss the relationship of music and politics in the U.S. is Jackson Mvunganyi, host of VOA's Upfront. Welcome yet again to Perspectives, Jackson.
Thank you, Dimyake.
Well, obviously the youth are turning out in larger numbers, participating in elections and voting. Is it largely due to hip-hop?
Well, hip-hop is a language that youth understand very well, and so they have been mobilized to engage in politics, to engage in activities that affect them on a daily life through hip-hop. That's how effective it has been. And so we've seen a higher turnout in the past elections, 2004 elections, and these elections we have seen campaigns like Vote or Die or Rock the Vote, and they've been very effective way of bringing in the youth into this, into politics.
What about in Africa? Do you think that this message resonates very well too among the youth? Are they accepting that, or is this the tool that is being used to attract?
Speaking from personal experience, I think youth in Africa are more engaged in politics than we see youth in the West, because one person told me there are less distractions for for youth in Africa than youth in the West. You know, things like video games, the internet, they're less proliferated in Africa than they are here. But also African youth understand their issues more because they get affected on a daily basis. So they know how important it is to be involved, to be engaged.
Okay, now also just very briefly, is it that the youth really understand the issues? Are they also demanding certain changes, or they're just turning out to vote?
There has been a youth voter education programs that are being going on, and these campaigns engage the youth and also speak to them, and they make them understand what it is that they lose if they don't exercise that right to vote.
Thank you so much, Jackson Vunganyi of VOA's Upfront. And that's all we have for you today. Until next week, I'm Dumyake Mwakaliele for the Voice of America.